Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. On the podcast today is Rachel Moriarty. She's a leading home style expert, best-selling author, speaker, brand ambassador, product designer, and co-host of the popular Design+Style podcast. Recently, she was named one of the 2018 most influential people in real estate staging. She's also an award-winning designer with more than 13 years of experience redesigning the houses, vacation, and investment homes of successful professionals in and around San Diego County and nationwide via her online services. Her work, both as a designer and stylist, has been published in home furnishing catalogs and industry and shelter magazines. A treasure huntress since the age of 12, her specialty is elevating spaces by incorporating her clients' family heirlooms and is known for her use of playful patterns, bold strokes of color, and serious style. Her current projects include a new tile line with Elegant Mosaics, the design and launch of the Design Network's new eDesign platform, a new podcast called Biz-Ability with Rachel, and the renovation of 3 homes for a new HGTV series focused on short-term rentals, which is scheduled to launch in early 2019. If you know or follow Rachel, she is a hoot. Seriously, she is so charming and so funny and so very relatable. And I love all the color that she surrounds herself with. Rachel shares in our time together how she juggles all that she does, how she's learning to remove the barriers that box her in, say yes, and then also say no to the suggestions and the activities that create her one-of-a-kind business. Rachel's support in the interior design industry is around visibility and encouraging each business to embrace being seen. She has termed the phrase Biz-Ability, and she shares a bit more about that on the podcast. I thought I was a busy woman, but I think I met my match today. Enjoy the conversation as Rachel broadcasts from her own personal space in a room of her client's home that she has made an office away from home. Enjoy. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Rachel, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I am fantastic. I am so excited that you're here. I've been watching you on Facebook and on Instagram, and we've chatted back and forth multiple times, and I was just waiting for your calendar to clear enough that we could jump on and have this call. So thank you for taking time to make that happen.
I'm so excited. What's up, Profit peeps?
Exactly.
Just want to say hi to all your Profit peeps out there.
I love it. I love it. That is a part of being in business and what we're all here for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Rachel, I've read your bio to everybody listening. You have done a lot of things. You've had a varied background. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now?
Oh my gosh. So this is so crazy. I had recently an interview with Home and Garden Lifestyle magazine, and they did a little piece where they followed me around and they, where do you go get coffee and where do you shop and get inspired and all this stuff. And when the editor came up to me, she said, I always think of you as a designer, but you've just become so much more than that now. And it was the first time hearing it that I went, oh my gosh, I'm literally living my multi-passionate dream right now. Primarily, I'm an interior designer, interior decorator, and stager. That's my primary job. But there's so many different things that I've added in and layered in, pulling from my organic. I came to design organically through photo styling in the fashion industry. And so I brought that piece back in. I do photo styling. I get hired by sometimes the actual client if they're having a magazine feature, sometimes the designer, and sometimes the brand. Sometimes the catalog or the magazine will hire me. So that's another thing that I do. I'm a brand ambassador for the Design Network, which is a huge piece for me. I helped them design and launch their new eDesign platform, their software, which is something I never thought I would be doing. You probably know as a software designer, your background's in software, but this is
Yes.
like this one came out of like left field. And I'm starting to work a little bit with RST brands. I've worked with them as a brand ambassador on several projects. So that's something that's new. We have a lot planned for this upcoming year. So I'm excited to do that with them. I've added the title product designer this last year. I'm a product designer for Elegant Mosaics, and they are they have a lot of natural stone, and they wanted to bring color into their line. And most people know me for bold colors and patterns, so it was a natural fit. But bringing color into a company that only works with natural stone is a process, and so we have a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It takes a lot longer than you think, but we're getting ready to launch some stuff with Elegant Mosaics, and through that, through a grout company called Laticrete as well. So really excited about that. I'm also a podcaster. I was the co-founder of Design+Style podcast with Dixie Willard, which went recently into hiatus, and I'm getting ready to launch my new podcast. And this one's, you're a solo podcaster. I've never done it. I've always had somebody to have, a sense of rhythm and bounce off of, and she could pick up where I would, kind of go down. So I'm excited. I mean, definitely there's some nerves around it. Nick May and I May Media is going to be taking care of all the back end for me. So I've been coaching with Nick May a lot. He's got a lot of faith in my ability. And so it's great to work with somebody who's, I call him the grandfather of the, of
Right.
the interior design podcast. He's been doing it for so long. So that's great. And then I do visibility strategy and coaching with interior designers. We had a membership site. We had a pretty robust thing built up last year. Everything went into hiatus. I'm going to be relaunching in 2019, so I will be opening up one-on-one sessions and stuff like that again. And I'm also a author. I added author title, #1 best-selling author. I co-authored a book on marketing for the staging and interior design industry. So that's been a fun thing too.
And you also have some TV coming out, don't you? Some TV work?
I do. So I am working on a show for HGTV called Your House is My House. It's all about short-term rentals. And I just want people to know I am not hosting the show. There's talent. They bring in talent to host the show, but I was on the design construction side of it.
You could totally have been the talent. They missed the ball on that one. Give me their email. Let me email
Right?
them. They
Right?
missed something there. So, with all of that, Rachel, I think people can understand why it took a while for you and I to be able to coordinate our schedules to work together.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, though, because I think that you brought up a good point that some things had to go in hiatus. And I just did the year-end podcast with Silda Guglielmo. And one of the things we talked about is as we're planning for 2019, that when we're adding things in, sometimes we have to quite often, we have to let things go. You can't just keep piling on at the same time. I was even telling her that I have a strategy that if I buy something new to put it into my closet, something comes out. Like I can't just keep adding to it. It becomes too much with my time, my energy. Yeah. So what have you had to let go to be able to make room and space for some of the new ventures or even a restart of a venture for this new 2019 year?
Well, Design+Style was a big piece that I go. And ironically, I was pretty devastated. It was unplanned. Dixie got hit with kind of the big life stick, and it was a pretty fast and furious thing. As soon as we decided, we got on and we announced it. And then I had to find my new normal. But what happened is it opened up space for so much more. So I am going to be adding podcasting back in, but I got the biggest client of my entire career a week later. So I would not have, it's so funny when you create a container, like you say, I've heard it said, like the universe loves a vacuum, right? So I created space in my calendar and my life. And I'm interviewing right now for my client's home. And because I spend a lot of time here, I actually co-work here with them. I built a in-home conference room, and I co-work here. So, that's one of the things that I let go, and that is opening up more opportunity than I didn't even anticipate.
Right.
So,
I think sometimes we too think we can just keep adding in. And, I'm a firm believer that good can be the enemy of best.
yes.
You do
yes.
something that's really good, and then when the best comes along, there's no, as you said, space in the container.
Right.
And I know the last few podcasts I've been hosting, we've been really talking about increasing the size of our container. Like, what
Yes.
really is the potential? What is the possibility? Where is the ceiling? Is there a ceiling? And I think quite often as women, especially when we're maybe in some uncharted territory, or we don't see another business model that looks just like ours is morphing and moving, we don't always have the map laid out. So we're trying to figure it out as we go. But giving ourselves the grace and the peace to take something off and say, maybe that was the time and space for that, but it's not going forward. It was a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean it was bad. It just means that the time is done.
So what I did after Design+Style is I got quiet. I got really quiet, and which is hard for me as a visibility queen. But I decided at that point to change everything. And what I mean by that was I had noticed I had put a lot of boundaries around my business, and I didn't. And I think it was from being in Facebook groups, from listening to, oh, I don't work on the weekends, or I don't work after this, or I don't work after that. And I started thinking, why do I have all of these boundaries? Why do I have to make someone use my software? Why do I have to, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go into this next phase of my business, and I'm going to be just a little bit more open. I'm going to actually remove the boundaries so I can test. And so that's what I've been doing a lot right now. I've just been testing, and I have been saying yes to so much more and not doing things the way I've done it. And I'm making more money just from doing that. And not really that I've actually done anything different, but I opened up the possibility to, I'll do that. Yeah, I can do that. And then working on the weekends, I started shopping with clients. I get $3,000 a shop with a client in and I always used to say, I won't shop with clients. I don't shop with clients. And I don't know where that came from. I think you can get too much information in Facebook groups. And if you don't, what's right for me and I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I have business very differently because my priority is dropping her off and picking her up, which means that I do have to work on Saturdays and Sundays. I got home at 10 last night because I was out doing Christmas trees, at the Christmas tree farm I have to work around that right now. So too many boundaries, because that's so high value for me that I just have to make it work.
Okay, I think that is such a beautiful point. I can remember when I turned 40 years old, wondering all of a sudden, who made all these rules? Why do little things like, I live in the South. Who in the world said you cannot wear white after Labor Day? It is still 98 degrees. Right. We're still in bathing suits and flip-flops. So why all of a sudden is white not good? I mean, that just seemed ridiculous to me. Some of these, and I'm not saying that some boundaries and barriers aren't great for business. Right. They are. But I do think that it is very personal. What is the business that you're creating? And those boundaries and barriers are initially put in place to protect us and to protect our clients. And so I understand the vein in which they're offered in these groups. However, as my husband would say, however, it really comes down to what is the business that Rachel wants? What is the business that Michelle wants? And what is the life that I'm living right now. Like I had to manage my business for years around my children. I chose to do that. I wanted to do that. I might stop in the middle of the afternoon to, go to a game that, they played football at 4:30. I might stop and go do that and then come back and pick back up. Now I'm in a life phase where my kids are either one's at college and the other works full time. So I don't have those boundaries anymore. I also loved how you talked about saying yes to some things, testing the market. One of the things I was just talking about on another podcast was creating space to dream. And sometimes when we set our goals for the new year, it's kind of like what you're saying. We take all these boundaries and rules and we create this business that locks us in, that is rigid and that almost puts us against the client.
Yeah.
We're on this side and you're on that side. And you better do it my way or you don't get in. And again, not saying that there aren't times to do that, but there are so many other ways. What if we did just open up some yeses? And you're strong enough and you've been through business enough to know when the yes is being taken advantage of. I think that's key. And when the yes is actually an opportunity to do something outside of the norm that is going to grow and expand your container.
Well, one of the things I heard you say I've heard you say it on a couple different podcasts. I think that when you're working with your clients, you ask them to ask, is there anything else you would like Rachel Moriarty Interiors to offer?
Right.
And part of that is that saying yes. So I was at the Christmas tree farm last night with my client till 10. And he says, do you do a lot of holiday decorating? I said, I hate holiday decorating. No. But I'm doing it and I'm getting really well compensated. And so this is the first time I've done it. I'm having a blast. And, it's just funny. People want it. So of course I'll do it. I've had real dips at this time in the year sometimes. When I would think that people would be preparing their house for the holidays, I've actually gone flat during, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So it's been nice to, open that up to do, of course I'll come in and refresh or, for a day or whatever. Just open it up a lot more to what people, not what I think they want, but what they actually want and need.
Oh, I like that. Not what you think they
Shocking.
want. Yeah, but what they actually want, which means we have to have a conversation with them, open up the conversation to what else, exactly what else could I offer you? I mean, they really want, if we're already in their home, they trust us. We've already passed know, like, trust.
Yeah.
Now it's just how much can they work with me as a resource to support them? And when someone has spent tens of hundreds of thousands with us as designers to come in and to, originally define and decorate and design the space, they want to know that when they bring their holiday accoutrements into that room, they're not going to destroy the look. And I think it is a huge missed market for many people. And I don't love it either. It's not my thing.
Barely throw a tree up at home.
Oh yeah. I was laughing. I was like, I'm not even going to put a picture of my tree out there compared to some of these I've seen. However, it is a great opportunity to get in and to support, your clients and to move you into a different client base, because the clients that can pay you to do all that are the clients that are going to then call you back when they need to do the next thing in their home.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the great thing is he's hosting huge corporate party, which is what I'm doing this for. There's 150 realtors and mortgage lenders, which is my perfect. And he's top, and they're all top tier. So I'm really busting for this one. So this is a new niche. I'm not well known in the real estate market, in my local real estate market. So it's part of my new visibility strategy. And we're going to be working closely throughout the new year. So I'm excited.
So when you started let me ask you this, your first business that you started on your own, what were you doing in that business? Was that the staging and the decorating, or was it the styling, or when you went out on, Rachel Moriarty all by yourself?
So what I did was I opened a boutique when my son was born around 2000, and it was kind of in the shabby chic, and I've vintage flea market girl. So I was kind of flipping furniture, making it into like cottagey, shabby chic. It was in a really wealthy area, beach, oceanside community, and the women were stay at home. They would come in and buy for the nurseries and that, but very quickly after they would say, can you do the big girl room or the big boy room? They were just kind of bored, and so they were constantly redoing their spaces. And then, of course, it was like, can you do my home office? Can you? And then I ended up going into the adult spaces. So that was the first. It was a brick and mortar. And then once I started going into the adult spaces and then my kid was in school, then I started getting into interior design. So that's kind of how that happened.
Okay. And did you start all of that with a passion to create and to do and to sell? Or did you start it with, let's be profitable from the beginning? You know, what did that journey look like for you? Because you've definitely morphed and you've said yes more than anybody I know who said yes. I'm just going to say that.
I definitely did not. I was a pure creative, and honestly, I was a pure creative until the recession, till everything tanked. And what I did is I went into banking for 8 years, and it was the best move. I would have never thought that was a great move, but I ended up being great at it because it's more relationship. I don't think people realize it's more relationship than numbers. And I just kept getting, like every couple of years, I get plucked and moved up and plucked and moved up. And I ended up in private banking, working with really high net worth individuals and businesses, and watching them build, like they would start a business, get their entity documentation, and then they would come in and they'd open like 4 accounts for that entity. And I was like, huh, and I would just kind of watch them over and over, and I would actually watch their attitude around money. Like money for me, there was this weird thing, and I would just watch them play with it, and I was playing with money too, millions of dollars, because I was in private banking. But it wasn't really, even then when I went back into design, in 2015, it was more out of a service. At that point, it was, I want to go back. I just don't want to do pretty rooms. I want to serve people. I want to help them heal or help them, whatever, that was more the thing. It still wasn't profitable. My husband has just we're a 2-income family, but we had a very stable, we have insurance and all that stuff.
Sure.
And I just knew if I went in I just knew if I went in with that, because it gave me the goosebumps when I said it out loud. And I just knew if I went in that way, everything would work out. And I knew everything isn't for naught. I knew I didn't spend 8 years in banking and watching these high net worth individuals run their businesses. I knew it was all going to play in. I just didn't know how.
And so what can you attribute your the turn to profitability to? Was it watching the numbers? Or listen, most creatives, even though you and I both know there are a lot of numbers in what you do, either in ordering, scale, proportion, maybe not thinking about it the way that we might think about it on a profitability statement, but those numbers are involved in everything we do. Mm-hmm. But there's this block, this fear that I can't do it, or that if I'm creative, therefore I can't be financially profitable, maybe because I don't know or can't understand. And I have spent years trying to express that you absolutely can understand the numbers. Yes, it's about relationship. Yes, it's about design. Yes, it's about creativity. But they're really just a couple of key numbers that if you can manage and watch, you can be profitable in the whole thing. And putting up some of those boundaries that we talked about, maybe not quite so many,
right?
But knowing that if you're going to do it, at least get paid well for it. Well, where did yours switch? Can you pinpoint any either mindsets or ideas or ahas? I know when mine was when I did my taxes and realized I didn't make any money. And I was like, I'm not doing that again.
That was my first year of business. It was devastating. I hadn't done any of my numbers the whole year, and I was so busy working. I had worked my tail off, and I was like, I was profitable, but it was nothing that I thought, because I had no idea. I was just blind. And so that was the first turning point. I was gutted. I was literally gutted. So that was it. and for me, the numbers have been such a blessing. Not looking at the numbers in my business, but being able to run a spreadsheet. When I go into a client and they have that analytical husband, I will go toe to toe and I will say, you know what? I dare you to find a mistake on one of my spreadsheets. I invite you to. So they love that. Like that gets the husband every time, because I'm not afraid to talk about high numbers. I'm
Right.
not afraid, so it's actually been a blessing, the whole numbers and spreadsheets and all.
Right. It's that phrase that it absolutely makes me want to jump off a building is, where the husband will say, okay, so why don't you sharpen your pencil? Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my response has always been, oh, I don't need to. Mine stays sharp.
Right.
Which is the equivalent of look at my spreadsheet and see what you think. And what that does is it immediately says, I can go toe to toe with you on these numbers, and I know where they came from.
Right.
Rachel, I would say that the business owners that I have had the opportunity to work with, and there have been thousands over my 11, 12 years working primarily with the financial aspect. The minute that they understand their numbers and where it came from, right? So they're not just creating a spreadsheet that somebody else gave them with a number they don't understand.
Right.
And even when they just start to understand the number that they're marking up or what they're going to make an hour for that one thing on one spreadsheet for one job, it is so empowering that you then want to kind of expand that financial container. All right, so now how can I understand the next piece and the next piece? And to me, that's what opens up the yeses. Another way that opens them up, because you're like, yes, that could be profitable. And yes, that could help me. And here's how, like the shopping on Saturday, and here's the rate that it's going to be, because you have the numbers to back up what it's going to take to make that happen.
Right.
Versus, that reaching in the air for some number or jumping onto a Facebook group and taking somebody else's number because it looks or sounds good. That just to me doesn't, I'm not saying we can't use those as guidelines, but that's what gets us in trouble when we start feeling like an imposter, because we borrowed somebody else's work without then taking it and chewing it up and owning it ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So when you have made all of these changes, I know now a lot of your push in the industry and the support that you offer in the industry is around visibility. Were you always one who thought, I mean, you're cute as a button, and you always dress with color and flair, and I love that. But were you always one who was really comfortable being visible in front of the camera? Were you comfortable being visible with your business and putting it out there, or has that also been a journey for you?
That's been a huge journey. And I think people look at me today. So I took the leap from corporate banking in the middle of 2015. And I like to tell the story that on my wedding day, I was in the bathroom with my mom and I started crying. And she asked me why I was crying. And I said, because everyone's going to look at me on my wedding day.
Wow.
So I tell that story because I want people to know how invisible I liked to be. And then when I made the leap into entrepreneurship, I hid behind my laptop so much. I hit the first, so it was May of 2015. I went through the first summer with and I had nothing in my pipeline. I had nothing in my pipeline. So that's when I got an intuitive hit that said, do a Facebook Live challenge, which is what got me started. And with it, I did a 30-day challenge for myself, which led to a full year. But within that just 30 days, that I was so comfortable on camera. It's great for an introvert. It's so much easier than going into trying to make small talk with somebody for me. So it was just a perfect fit. But no, it was not comfortable or natural for me in the beginning.
Okay, so you're not telling me right now, please, you got to clear this up. Are you seriously an introvert?
I'm an introvert. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Huge. Yeah. I'm a homebody, total homebody introvert.
Wow. Okay.
But,
so I think that is super encouraging then, right? For those people, I mean, they're always extroverts. It's funny, people think I'm a huge extrovert.
Yeah.
I would say I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yes.
I enjoy people. I enjoy going out. I enjoy being at home and quiet in my jammies with my family.
Talking like this, like one-on-one,
I can do that all
dig
day.
in. Yeah, all
Mhm.
day long. Exactly.
But I don't look for the next party to go to. If
Yeah.
anything, I look for the one person to go to the next party with me.
Yes.
So I make sure I have somebody to talk to and I'm not having to walk around with a drink in my hand, right? Yeah. Okay, funny. But here's what I
Oh
love about
gosh.
this, Rachel, and thank you so much for the transparency and sharing that, is that, I coach many, and I know you have as well, that say, I can't do this. I don't like to do this, or how do I put myself out there? And your example of really going, I don't even want them to look at me on my wedding day, which is the one day every woman kind of wants everybody to look
Yeah.
at them, right? That's the one day that you're really kind of over the top beautiful. Even from that to, even behind the scenes at HGTV, but podcasting and brand ambassador and all these things, it takes a certain amount of confidence. But don't you think that confidence builds? You do the first thing, like the first 30 days, that builds to do the year, that builds to do the next thing. And so the visibility is not even just about being physically visible in front of the camera, but having your company in areas to be recognized and seen.
Yeah, I actually have recently did a new hashtag in my community called Biz ability, because I noticed when I talk to people, when I would use the word visibility, there's resistance. When I would start to explain everything you do when you put yourself out, tie it back to your business somehow. Even if you're talking about your mom, talk about how she started, how she influenced your journey, or how her style influenced, your design aesthetic, whatever. It always has to tie back. Everything that I share, people, see me out there, but I'm always branding. So I came up with the term Biz-Ability, and it's resonated a lot with people. They understand now that they're not just going on Facebook Live to be cute. That it is for, eventually was planting the seeds to grow a business. So that's been a big switch. I'm going to really lean into that in 2019. I'm really excited about that term. So it's been fun to play with.
It's interesting. Sometimes I hear the comment that they don't like self-promotion. I don't like to self-promote.
Right.
And I always say, then don't
Yeah.
solution promote.
Yes. Love that.
Promote your business as a solution. You just happen to be part of it. So in other words, connect everything back to you and what you do. There's nothing worse than going to somebody's business website and you still don't know what they do. You can't
Yeah.
figure it out. They're in 45 places, but you don't know what they do and what they offer. And that's not conducive to running a great business. That's not going to support you.
Exactly.
How would you tell a designer or a workroom or a stager or anybody in this design umbrella industry, how would you tell them to start with visibility? What would you say would be a good maybe first and second step to get them going?
This is what I'm going to be really focusing on this year too. I last year we gave everybody every single tool there was out there. Here, but get this headset and get this microphone, and here's how you start a live stream. And really starts with mindset and clarity. That's the only way you're going to start your journey. You have to figure out what you want people to know about your business. You need to sit and just really get clarity about where you're going with your business. You cannot throw yourself on Facebook Lives or IG Stories or IGTV if you don't have a roadmap and some strategy behind it. It's going to feel really icky and you're not going to stick with it. So I think that's the first thing. The other thing is, it just takes courage and belief. If you don't believe that everything that you do is going to have some ROI down the road, and it really is, it's down the road.
It's the long game.
It's sometimes, yeah, it's a long game. You will get these short wins that will keep you going. I promise you will get, I've heard people say, I did a live stream and I got a project, because they did it from a tile store or they were talking about faucets or something like that. You will have the short wins, but they won't be enough to sustain. You have to think long game. So that's the other thing. It just takes the belief, but really the courage just to do it every day, every day, every day, every day. Sometimes I still need courage to get on. So just because I get out of practice and, I have to be like, okay, just talk myself. It's just courage.
What made you recognize, or was there anything that happened that made you recognize the importance of visibility? Because, there are plenty of people in business that don't see that as important, not because they don't think it's important, but they haven't even thought of it. What was it that you think was the push for you that went, this is super important and there needs to be a plan of action around it? Like you said, it can't be sporadic. It's kind of like blogging. You need to have a blog plan. You need to, I know every month I send out 1 newsletter and 2 blog posts, and they all are around the same topic. They are building on a similar topic so that it's not a bunch of disconnected ideas, and thoughts. So really putting that together. But what was it that made you realize that importance behind it?
So I think it was, I got this call from a woman to do a project, and when I picked up the phone to talk to her, she was out of breath. She was so excited to talk to me. She had found me on social media. She had gone through all of my social pages. She said that she spent an hour and a half watching all of my live streams. She felt like she knew me, and it was like one of the first projects where I didn't have to even sell. It was like, okay, well, let's get a date
show
on it.
up.
Yeah, well, which date do you want to, So that's when I was like, oh my gosh, she really had the upper hand, because she felt like she knew me, but I had no idea who she was, right? But I just, and I don't just I'm known for live streams, but I blog. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I'm always updating my website. So I do a super, super layered. Of course, I did the podcast. I lead a community and everything. So it's very layered, but that was like the moment that I went, oh, sales can be this easy and I don't even really have to sell it.
Right.
So, yeah, I just wanted to, and then I kind of was like, well, I just want to show up on their phone, even if they're swiping me off. I'm top of mind.
That's right. I'm visible. I'm in their face.
Yes.
So you mentioned having courage. So if somebody is stuck or they're afraid or they don't have courage, how do they start to build it? I mean, I know one of the first steps is to do it, but at some point they've got to have something. Maybe they could promise themselves a favorite pair of jeans or some chocolate if I do it. Maybe set up a reward. But what would you say? How do they get unstuck?
Also a reward, but I would say content is king.
Okay.
And we as designers, we're such it's such a like glam job. There's so much content out there that you can do. When I did my first 30 days, I over prepared. I mean, I basically did every live stream, even though it was just a few minutes, basically had a blog post written and I would lead them to that. And then I'd have a freebie, and I just knew my content so well. So I would just say, start creating, maybe say you're going to give yourself a 5-day challenge and create a week. Let's say we're in the new year, how to, set yourself up for success in 2019. And then just say, okay, on Monday, I'm going to start with decluttering. On Tuesday, I'm going to, and this is all stuff we know, but if you outline it, kind of like really take it in, that will give you, knowing what you're going to talk about, being well prepared, that helps a lot.
How much time should somebody set aside each week, or what's a good place to start with setting aside time? Because you first have to have time to prepare, to think about it, and then time to do it, and then time to promote it.
Well, this is the thing. Eventually you won't have to prepare. Now I can hop on and I can talk about anything with anybody. But I think it just really takes as much time as it takes for you. Okay. I don't think there's a perfect answer. I was so crazy over prepared. I'm probably embarrassed to even share how much time I've spent.
But I do think it is important to say that, when you're starting, you may not feel as comfortable jumping on and having it. I mean, I'm in the same place you are. somebody could call me and say, let's jump on with the podcast. And if they're talking about anything within my realm
Yeah.
of knowledge and expertise, I could jump on and talk without any prep, any
Yeah.
questions, and go. But if they asked me to talk about something that I did not know about, I would
Right.
struggle. And
Yeah.
so I think that is a really good point. Part of creating a visibility strategy is not only to always connect it back to your core business or the things you want to do and offer. Don't ever connect it back to what you don't want to do.
Right.
I've seen that mistake made. It's kind of like putting up the design project that you hated or the window treatment that you didn't enjoy making. Don't put them up because people
Yeah.
get drawn to that. So, having an idea of not only what you want to say, but where you want to lead them. And as you said, prepare. And the more you say it and the more you do it, the more it almost kind of slots itself into a template, if you will. Start here, 3 points, do a close, done.
Yeah.
And it becomes much more comfortable and easy and less time intensive. But we do have to set aside time at the beginning to really think about it. And don't you think as well how it fits into the other strategies? Because you mentioned the layered approach. I have the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the Build a Profitable Business for interior designers and workroom Facebook group. I've got my business coaching system Facebook group. I've got newsletters, blogs, podcasts, IG stories, Instagram, Facebook. I got all of it as well. And it's really thinking about which piece and parts and how they do fit together. So it's not that disconnected approach that we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. And the other thing is there are so many ways to be visible. If writing is your thing, then lean into the blog. Blogs are not dead. I'm going on the KBiz blog tour. That still has so much influence, in the industry. So I would say if that's your thing, then do that. Do prepared video. You don't have to hop on live streams. IG stories is so much fun for me. So much fun. So I love adding all the little GIFs, and I feel like that really shows my personality. So it's really, really layered.
All right. So how did you get started with IG stories? Because I think for me, like I've not done an IG story yet because I'm like scared to death of what if I do it wrong and then I look really stupid. I mean, thank goodness they go away quickly. They don't live forever, but that's going to be my saving grace when I jump on there. But I'm much more of a prepared gal kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a very in the moment thing. I love that it doesn't the feed scares me a little bit more than the IG stories because it's like everybody's so perfectly curated on Instagram.
Yes.
It's you just kind of feel like, oh my gosh, is my picture worthy to be on my feed? So, but
it wasn't like that when it started. People were putting up everything. And now the feed is like the professional place.
Yes.
And the place to really be, in air quotes that nobody else but me and you can see.
Yes.
The place to show your personality and to be fun and exciting and goofy and outtakes is on Instagram, is on stories or
Yeah. And you can add so much. I never use Snapchat, but apparently if people know Snapchat, then it's very similar to that. So
that's a fun. I'm all right. I'm going to have to just set that up for my year. I'm going to have to try it. I've been stuck and afraid on stories to do the whole video thing, but all right, I'm going to give it a shot. If you could give, I'm going to back up. How has visibility led to profitability for you? Give me some stories of where being visible. You said one where the client pretty much you'd already pre-sold yourself. Do you have any other examples of where visibility? I mean, I would certainly guess the brand ambassador, being one of the most influential people in 2018 in real estate staging and doing some of those things. Visibility has led to accolades and opportunities that you maybe wouldn't have had or wouldn't have had as early.
Right.
Prior to. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that. The other thing that I've noticed is as I get into these higher tiers of clients is those things are the important things to them. Along with their red Porsches, along with this, they want the designer that has the 4 HGTV letters that just came out in the magazine that, those things actually
that cachet matters to them.
It matters to certain clients. It may not matter to us so much. It's like cool, but you're like, whatever. But it really does matter to the level of client that you're going after. So I never thought of myself as a luxury. And I think I'm so down to earth, I would never be like, luxury, but I'm definitely working in that level of client now. And it's all because of all this. It's been a couple of years. You get a feature here, you get a feature there. You're on, I've done a ton of work with the Design Network. I'm now working with HGTV and, a lot of the local, I've gotten in really well with the local editors here. So they hit me for, I did a tastemaker takeover for the holidays and stuff like that. So I'm getting really well known through my local shelter magazines.
Sure.
So that's been helpful as
I
well.
think you make a good point here. It was kind of a sub point in all of that, is that it takes time. This is not an overnight success. And sometimes the same thing happens on just even the financial piece or any piece really, is we kind of feel like, well, I've done it, I should be recognized. And sometimes the recognition takes a while to build before it shows up. It's kind of like, the singers or the actors and actresses that everybody thinks they just burst onto the scene. And you don't know that they've been doing this for 14 years as a bit player in the back corner. They maybe got cut, but they've been honing their craft and working. And I think that perseverance and that stick-to-itiveness is super important. And I'm going to speak for myself too. Visibility is not easy for me. I have fought it. And it's because I know what I know, and I know it really well. I know my stuff, just like you know yours. But there's something different of putting yourself out there in a certain way that can be intimidating. Mm-hmm. But once you do it, and you realize you didn't die, you have all your limbs, you can keep moving. It builds the courage for the next thing, but it takes time.
It takes time, but it's so important because it's so important to position yourself in your business. You really do, and I see in Facebook groups, sometimes I'll see, and I don't mean older in age, but designers that have been around longer. I see them sort of get upset that these younger, newer ones that are really comfortable with the new tech and social media are getting more recognition than, there's just more opportunity. We don't have to go into the regular shelter magazines on the news and
That's
all that
right.
stuff anymore,
It's shifting, right? We all can agree with that.
It's shifting. And I remember saying when I was doing my daily live stream show, Rachel's Daily Riffs, that my thing I used to say is, I'm not waiting for HGTV to call. And they ended up calling. So it really does pay off. Long game. One of the things was Jason Harris, the owner of the Design Network. He popped into my private message book with a message that says, "Hey, Rachel, you're going to be my new best friend." And that was how we started off our relationship, So it's just from being out there, putting yourself out there and being somebody that's approachable and likable.
Taking the risk. So, all right, so we've talked about all the great parts of visibility, but let's be honest, we sometimes might fall and skin our knees, or sometimes it can cost us because maybe we make a connection with somebody that maybe is not going to be in our best interest. Can you talk a little bit about how we maybe need to be aware so that visibility doesn't affect us in a negative way or our profits in a negative way? I'm sure you've seen some of those. I've seen them. What has your experience been with you or with others?
Well, I've definitely called in ugly a couple times. I'm very I usually come out camera ready because I like to do it daily. It's part of just what I do now. So, but yeah, there are some days where I'm like, this is not happening. Honestly, I haven't really seen a lot of the downside of it. The only thing I would say is if you are not so focused in on where you're going with your business, it can be a distraction.
Oh, I like that because it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you time and money to do it,
and everybody's
opportunity cost.
yes, people are going to want you. You have to be really selective about the podcasts that you choose, the where you could choose to contribute, where, because
Yes.
all of a sudden it just opens the floodgates and you could almost not have time to do your design work. So
That's
that I
exactly
say,
right.
yeah, that would be one of the downfalls for me.
Right. I know. I mean, I'm invited like you are to be on multiple podcasts. And some of them, I go out and listen to the podcast and I think to myself, yes, I could be on it if visibility was my only goal.
Right.
But if my goal is to be visible within brand, to bring people back, to share consistent messaging, I'm a really big cheerleader for understanding your why, the Simon Sinek why. I've talked
Yes.
about it on the podcast multiple times. I've been doing that work back in 2008, before Simon came on the scene with it. And
With his visibility.
yeah, with
With
his
his YouTube
visibility. With
visibility.
that one TED talk
Stole
that
it.
like launched him into outer space.
Yes.
It's funny that you say that, but he has a great video that's on Facebook on his page that talks about how he was not ready for what came after that TED. He did it like as a
Wow.
TEDx, and it went bananas. And then they brought him up to the main TED stage, and his business just shifted and turned, and he got pulled into the upper tiers that he was just trying to get an idea out at the time, and it just went crazy. And so I think sometimes part of the visibility is not even knowing what's coming, which most of us don't. You can't plan for everything, but seriously being careful who we connect with. I always say, I'm from the South. I want to be careful what cart I connect my horse to.
Yeah.
I want to know that we're heading in the same direction, because if not, it could be costly for both of us. And I've also learned that, businesses are like icebergs. You only see the 5% above the surface. There's 95% of motive below the surface. And that's where you kind of have to dig before you do too much connecting. It's easy to connect on the 5% and not look deeper.
Right.
Out of excitement. You chose me, you know me, I'm seen or whatever. And after a while, that newness wears off. It feeds us, but it does wear off enough that hopefully we can know who we are. I think that's important. Know 100%. Who you are before you choose to be visible, so that you choose the strategies. Like you said, if you're a writer, do blogs or something that supports that. So that, because I'll tell you, if you show up on camera and you look like you're scared or you don't want to be there, that is not good for you. That's when visibility is bad.
Yeah. 100%.
And if you're not a good writer and you don't have someone to help you with grammar, please don't write, or write and have it edited, right? I mean, in other words, there's a time to show up real, and then there's a time to show up polished. And knowing both sides of that, I think is crucial.
That. Yeah.
Right? IG stories, be real. Your feed, be polished. I mean, that's kind of what it's come out to be. If you can offer a piece of advice to those in the interior design industry, staging, workroom, upholstery, whatever it is, the whole industry at large, if you could offer a piece of advice to help them, let's say, be more visible and profitable in that area, what would it be?
We kind of touched on it, but I'm just going to say, start small and build momentum. It's the simplest. It's so simple, but it really is. Don't get overwhelmed. I know a lot of people look at me and what I'm building. I hear all the time. I get messages. How do you do it? Where do you find the time? Blah, blah, blah. I started small. I started as a side hustle. Then I took the leap. Then, and so you will build momentum. But the other thing is, start today. Don't wait till 2019. Don't put it out on Q2. Start today. I don't know why people think like they're going to get visible and then they're going to be flooded with all this work and they're not going to be prepared. It doesn't work like that. So I would just say, just start small, start today.
You make me feel like I'm hearing in my brain the Nike slogan, just do it. Just do it. Right?
Yes.
And truthfully, many of us are fearful of success.
True.
And we really have to work on the mindset of not being fearful of success, so that then we're willing to be visible. And let's be truthful here. If all the opportunities come, we still have the ability to say no or wait. or
Mm-hmm.
stop something else to say yes. So it's
Yeah.
not like we have to do everything in that exact moment. There's still a
You don't.
progression that
But
happens on the other side
I think you do have to be ready to step into a bigger version of yourself.
to
I
get the big
remember
container, right?
I remember saying to my mom one time before all of this madness started, I feel like I'm secretly big. Like there was something in me that always kind of knew I would be in the spotlight, but I mean, this was like a decade ago. It was just this like thing. I think a lot of us know that if any of us put your name on a business, if you have your name in interiors or designs after it, you had that dream. You wanted to be the face of your business, it's in there. So I think, just lean into it a little bit and just start.
I think that's true too. Really trusting yourself, trusting your gut, and trusting those feelings. Because if we didn't want our name to be out there, we shouldn't really have started a business in the
Right.
first place. Because it's
Right.
kind of counterintuitive to that, right?
Eh,
So it's just finding the way that works for you. And I love that. We should be ready for it to come because that means that we are, number one, doing it with a plan, but we're also looking towards the possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, and if we're not looking for the possibility, then why are we even doing it?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that just seems like a time waster. The other thing I thought about when you just mentioned that is it may have started off as your side hustle, but it then became a priority. And so when people ask me, Michelle, how do you do all these things? The same way they ask you, Rachel, it's because I do the things that are a priority. And if it is a priority to my business, I find a way to get it done. And so that's true for every person. We do what we think is important in that moment. And at some point, building the strategy, if it's important to us, there will be room in our schedule to do it because we'll offload the other things to make room for that.
100%.
So, what is one of the next big profitability goals in your business, Rachel?
So honestly, I've just been talking about our numbers. It's that time of the year, and I have a goal to do 1,000 billable hours next year.
Oh, wow, that's
And
great.
so, yeah, so I'm like, if I get anywhere close to that, it's still a lot for interior design with everything that I have.
Right, because
But
it's not your only income stream. It's one of.
I don't have one income stream exactly. So, yeah, I think it'll be fun to break that down and go for it.
So, is there anything else you want to share? Tell us where we can find you. Tell us what to look forward to from Rachel in the new year.
Yes. So I'm going to be, of course, my new podcast. I have the HGTV. Look out for that. I think you'll really see a different. Been so hard for the Queen of Visibility to hold back. I have so much unpublished stuff that I can't do until the new year. But it's going to be really, really fun. I love the whole short-term rental market, and that's what this show's on. I think it's going to be really fun, so look out for that. I also have a marketing book for stagers and decorators that's available on Amazon, and if you want the regular book, you can PM me. Hang out with me in my private Facebook group. We'll have the notes in the We'll have the link in the show notes. And I think if you just connect with me on Facebook and Instagram, that's where people DM me, PM me all the time. And I'm very, very accessible. I talk, hang out. I feel like I hang out in private with a lot of people all the time.
Yeah. And I think
And
that to your point earlier, I think that's why I felt like I already knew you. Like could totally be BFFs, sit down with
yes.
a cup of coffee, which you have yours right now. And because you've made yourself accessible, you've made yourself relatable. And I will say a lot of times people look at the interior design industry, as you said, as such glam that
Yeah.
it's almost like it's unapproachable or like they're fearful. I think you've removed the fear and you've done a super great job of kind of creating a path for those of us to follow you. And so I thank you for that and what you've put out into the industry with regard to visibility and visibility. So I'm going to hashtag the visibility. I'll make sure it's in here for us.
Yes, and if anyone goes to the markets and conferences, I'm usually at, at least 6 of those, definitely the trade shows, High Point, Las Vegas Market, and all those. So come say hi to me.
That sounds fantastic. Rachel, thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy busy schedule. I'm glad we could finally connect. And I'm excited for your podcast. I will make sure to follow and listen and to give you a review because reviews are always important. Same for mine.
Absolutely. Yes.
All reviews matter. People look to see, what is this good? Should I, it takes a lot. We are so busy. And for people to spend their time with us in a Facebook
Yes.
group, on Instagram, in a podcast, is not something that I know either of us take lightly.
Right.
And I thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Michelle. It's been such an honor. I'm so excited. I love, love, love your podcast. I'll say it again. I'm going to say it properly in a review, but it's such an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers to 2019.
Absolutely.
Take care. Okay, wasn't that fun? My hope is that you'll consider visibility or Biz-Ability in a different way than maybe you did before. And as Rachel suggests, just do it. I know I'm going to. If you're considering reviewing your financial plan for your company, to go over and to think about all those things that we talked about today, go to scarletthreadconsulting.com and click the red box at the bottom right that says, I need help to create a financial plan. And it will download a free document to help you do just that. This document will lead you through the process one step at a time and make it easy peasy. Thanks again for your time to listen to the podcast. And remember, profit doesn't happen by accident.